Day 2 is coming to a close in Qatar 2 weeks today, and we will begin free practice 1 for a brand new season. And despite his dominance on this circuit, the first man out earlier today was Jorge Lorenzo. He's looking for win number 7 under the night lights in a couple of weeks' time, but he is an eager beaver as he headed out to try everything possible to make sure that both he and his Ducati are working ahead of the first round coming up very, very soon. We are here live in the MotoGP headquarters in Barcelona to bring you After the Flag, Day 2, live from Qatar. Half an hour still to go, so we'll update you with, of course, everything that goes on from Qatar in just a moment. But Steve Day here, and, well, I am actually here for once. I can just, I'm very pleased to announce that. And, of course, Matt Birt alongside me. Tell you what, Matt, Jorge Lorenzo's keen.
Yeah, very keen. It was, of course, a real tough test for him, wasn't it, in Thailand 2 weeks ago, Steve? A lot for him to try. I think a combination of a 2017, 2018 chassis for him to work on this week, so he was keen to get out on the circuit. Slight rain interruption a little bit earlier on, didn't disrupt proceedings too much, but yeah, Jorge was, he was keen to get out there. And
a couple of weeks to go, Matt. It's starting to get a bit exciting now, isn't it?
Yeah, the winter at this stage feels like it's been quite long, doesn't it? Yeah, we're all itching to get out there, start the season. 2 weeks until practice starts in Qatar in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, we can't wait to jump on the plane to Doha.
Well, that was the image of the day then. Jorge Lorenzo heading out on circuit, bright as a button as soon as the green flag was waved. But the big news of the day came just after last night's show closed, and it involved a certain Valentino Rossi. There is plenty to discuss here. Feast your eyes on the words here of Valentino Rossi.
Sì, la situazione è abbastanza chiara, nel senso che intanto non mi aspettavo che Poncharal lasciasse la Yamaha e diciamo che ci abbiamo pensato, era una cosa anche bella, ma non ce la facciamo, e quindi per i prossimi 2 anni non faremo il team della MotoGP con la Yamaha, anche perché molto probabilmente correrò io, quindi potrebbe essere una cosa per il futuro quando smetto, ma non nel 19-20.
Wow, well, there you go. I expect the news that so many people were hoping for. He's not signed the contract right in front of our eyes, Matt, but he's as good as saying that he's going to be racing on for another couple of years, which is great news for Rossi fans, great news from a neutral perspective for us in the commentary box. But the whole Tech 3 thing, it really has thrown a curveball at everything, hasn't it?
Yeah, the Tech 3 announcement last week, Steve, that they will be ending their 20-year association with Yamaha, a real bombshell on the eve of this 2018 World Championship campaign. Inevitably, that sparked rumours that potentially Valentino Rossi would try and run his own MotoGP team. Yamaha are now looking for a replacement for Tech 3, which is not going to be an easy challenge. But Valentino, pretty clear on that video there, ruling that out. His desire, his intention, that's been the vibe we had in Malaysia and in Thailand as well, that he is determined to carry on, extend his already illustrious career for at least another 2 years into 2019, 2020. As you say, Steve, fantastic news for fans all around the world. We could hear last night the champagne corks popping from promoters all over the world. With Valentino Rossi still riding, it's going to be fantastic. What do Yamaha do now? They have obviously got 2 good bikes available for 2019 and 2020, but it's quite clear Valentino said he did look at it. He did say that they probably had a little bit of a consideration. Everybody caught surprised by Jorge Poncharal's decision, though, to split with Tech 3, but it looks like it all points to Valentino signing a new 2-year contract, which will be fantastic for the sport in general.
Of course, Tech 3, we're going to talk a little more about Zarco later, but it does beg the question about what happens now with Zarco, with Jorge Poncharal, where he goes. Of course, all the whispers, as we've heard, and you spoke to Simon yesterday about it on air, about KTM. It's sounding like that's the way they're going to go.
It does, yeah. I mean, reading the press release that Yamaha put out about the Tech 3 split, it was quite clear that Jorge Poncharal said, we had an offer that we simply could not turn down. And to me, that means they're aligning, of course, with the new factory. They are splitting from Yamaha, but it seems that whoever they are aligning with, the big rumour, as you rightly point out, Steve, is KTM. They are going to have full factory support. It's going to be a full factory effort. So Jorge Poncharal, an offer on the table that they couldn't turn down. I'm led to believe that an announcement is quite imminent about what Tech 3 are going to be doing next year. It does, as you say, raise all kinds of questions. This man we're looking at on screens right now, Johann Zarco, what will he do? I mean, if it is a factory KTM team for Tech 3, will that convince him maybe to stay in Tech 3? A team that he loves, a team that he knows very well, an opportunity to continue his relationship with Guy Coulon. We know that's a very special collaboration. Or will any collaboration between Tech 3 and KTM mean that as part of a sweetener of that deal, Zarco is moving to the Red Bull KTM team, and Hervé Poncharal, as he is with Yamaha, is being badged as a junior team, and then he can bring in the likes of Miguel Oliveira, possibly with Hafiz Syrin. There are so many different permutations and options. The first thing, of course, we need to find out is whether it is going to be Tech 3 KTM next year. It does look like that's going to be the case. All being well, fingers crossed, we actually will have a live and exclusive interview with Tech 3 Yamaha team boss Hervé Poncharal on After the Flag tomorrow night. So watch this space.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a great catch if we can get Hervé in. We have some social media questions that are going to be coming in throughout the show, just a couple to bring you. And one was actually about the man that we've just been seeing on your screen there, about Johann Zarco. And hopefully we're answering the best we can in terms of what his future is. We're talking about KTM, maybe involvement with Red Bull. There's the question: if Valentino renews his contract, what can Yamaha do to keep Zarco? Offer him a factory machinery like Crutchlow and Petrucci? It's not going to happen. And this is something that I was then about to ask you, Matt. What do Yamaha think about this? Of course, they're delighted to keep hold of the Dr. Valentino Rossi. Who wouldn't be? That was their priority. But they are losing a star here in Johann Zarco.
Yeah, I mean, reading between the lines, that statement that came out from Yamaha, they were as shocked as anybody that Tech 3 are going to do the split. Where does it leave Johann Zarco? I don't think there's any future for him at all at Yamaha. I don't see how he would want to ride for another team on a Yamaha that wasn't Tech 3. It just doesn't make sense to me. He's a French rider. He wants to be in a French team. He's adored by that team. So I don't think there's anything that Yamaha can do to convince him to stay. I think the only way he was going to be on a Yamaha next year was if Tech 3 stayed and they could offer him a full factory contract, like you say, like Danilo Petrucci did with Ducati, like Cal Crutchlow's got this year with HRC. I just cannot see any way that he's going to be kept on board a Yamaha next year. There's so many rumours about him, of course, going to the KTM team. I mean, the question was if Valentino renews his contract. We're looking at Valentino in action today in Qatar. It's not if, it's when. You know, that announcement's going to be coming very, very imminently. Valentino dropping big hints yesterday that he signed that 2-year contract. So I can't see a way that they can keep Zarco. You make a great point, Steve. This is a bit of a roll of the dice from Yamaha. You know, Valentino can still deliver results even at the age of 39, but it's his commercial value as well. What he brings to Yamaha in terms of his commercial value away from the sport is immeasurable. It is absolutely huge. And while he's still delivering on the circuit as well, why would they want to cut him free if he wants to stay? But Valentino wanting to stay means that, you know, Johann Zarco, it's kind of pushed out in the cold. So they are taking a gamble by effectively letting Zarco go to another manufacturer, and it does look like that will be KTM. There's so many fascinating subplots to this story. It's really intriguing.
It is intriguing. It's absolutely mouth-watering, and it is the biggest news of the day, unquestionably. We'll be talking about this, of course, when we bring you Free Practice 1 in a couple of weeks' time. But, well, we're talking about Valentino Rossi and what's going on and the fact that it looks like he might stay for a couple of years. We might as well now get an opinion of former rider who's down in pit lane, live in Qatar. He did a sterling job with Matt here yesterday and After the Flag. So it's a very good evening to Simon Crafar. Thanks for joining us, Simon. What do you make of all of this news about Valentino Rossi? It was, I suppose, in a way we were expecting it, but that happened just after the show closed last night. Big, big news from your end of the world.
Yeah, it's when you say what do I make of it, like first thoughts are I'm super happy Valley's here. Like I've always said, I love having Valley. We all love having Valley in the paddock, in the sport. He's good for the sport. Then when I think further into it, I like being devil's advocate and throw little things out there. Like there is no guarantee that Valley will ride those whole 2 years, you know, and I think it's really sad, Yamaha, well, crazy that Yamaha have lost the opportunity to keep Zarco, you know, that's what it looks like at the moment, and I think he would have been the perfect, you know, the other guy at the other side of the garage to Vinales, and imagine if Valley does 1 year and goes, you know, this is horrible, I'm not enjoying it anymore, you know, I'm hanging up my helmet, which he can afford to, he can do, you know. I like to be devil's advocate, you know, I'm not trying to be negative. It's, imagine that, and then Zarco's headed off to another manufacturer. I'm surprised Yamaha leave themselves open for that. They must have other plans. Then I'd like to also throw in, you know, I did last night, the most obvious thing would be for Tech 3 and KTM to try Zarco or KTM to try and keep him, whether he's in Tech 3 with his French team or in the KTM factory team with some of his French team over there. Either way, that would be what I would do KTM, but we've also got to consider Suzuki, how much they must want him as well, you know. There must be other, I mean, that to me is the other obvious one that would be putting a piece of paper on Zarco's table saying, you know. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that one.
Matt, I think you want to ask the next question, so over to you.
Yeah, Simon, I was just curious, and obviously Tech 3 splitting with Yamaha after 20 years, it does leave two very good motorcycles on the grid vacant for 2019. I mean, I know you've been very busy on the ground in Qatar, but is there any indication at this stage of what may happen to those two Tech 3 Yamahas come 2019? Aspar expressed maybe some interest, Da Vinci Ducati possibly also in discussions. And Mark VDS, what's the early indications about who may possibly be running those two Yamahas when Tech 3 leave?
Matt, I've got to be honest and say I really don't know. Those discussions are really going on behind closed doors and nobody's saying, you know, there's no real solid rumours, you know, gossip, so I can't answer that one. I really don't know it.
Simon, just a quick word now. I mean, I think that we all agree that we could talk about Valentino Rossi, Johann Zarco, the Yamaha Tech 3 KTM saga until the cows come home, let's be honest about it. But we'll move on now to what's actually going on in day 2, and we'll talk about that maybe a bit later and into tomorrow as well. What's the latest gossip and action that's going on down the road? We can see from our time screens with 17 minutes to go that Andrea Iannone is currently fastest, but there's a lot going on there today.
Yeah, it was another slow start because most of the riders didn't use the early laps. There was one or two go out, obviously trying something on a bike they wanted to, but no one really got going and did some serious testing until it was really 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock before they all headed out and started battling away. And I've seen them trying all sorts of different things, you know. It looks like a race weekend and they're working serious on forks, shocks coming in and out, trying to find a race setup. The thing that has risen to the surface here that is really, you know, I think is going to throw cat amongst the pigeons on race day or race weekend is tyres, front tyres. I see some of the teams, or some of the brands really struggling with front tyre life. And like, for example, I saw Carl Crutchlow come in, Rossi, Zarco with a completely destroyed front tyre. And I know the Crutchlow's one was a medium, which I would have thought would have been the best race tyre, but it obviously doesn't last. And then I saw him head out on a hard. And I think the Hondas are struggling on front tyre, getting a front tyre to last the race. And that's what I mean about cat amongst the pigeons. You know, the Hondas are looking so strong, but I think their big worry is get a tyre that'll last. And then you've seen the Honda boys fall. Danny twice yesterday. Then today, Marquez just recently, half an hour or so ago, he had a fall in turn 2, which is one of the few left-handers here. It's the first left. And I think if they're trying to run harder front tyres to last the distance, when you get on the left side of that tyre where it hasn't been used, it's colder and then you fall, you know. Yeah, so that's on the tyre front. Then there's been a lot of fairings being thrown in. I see one bike having the aero package on in the Ducati garage, and then the other, like Lorenzo's running one of each. Excuse me, rather noisy down here. Because Danny Pedrosa didn't get through his test program, because of the 2 crashes yesterday, he didn't get to try the new aero fairing Honda have got here, a newer version. He didn't get to try it today, where Marc did. Then he's on the schedule to try it tomorrow. It's just that he's a little bit behind because of those falls. They obviously have a strict program to stick to. But there's a lot of other little bits and pieces I've picked up, but that's the tyre one is probably the scariest one when it comes race day.
Yeah, Simon, you talked about how eventful the test it's been so far for Repsol Honda, with 2 crashes yesterday for Danny and a crash tonight for Marc at turn 2. Glad to hear they're both okay. But this new Honda fairing, I think we've got some pictures coming up to show you of Marc Marquez trying today. What's been the vibe, what's been the feeling, and what are they looking for with that new bodywork at Honda?
You know, I really don't know what, that's all kept hush-hush, exactly what they're looking for or doing. You know, we don't get to hear, but the obvious thing is they're trying to get to Thursday before the race with the fairing they have to homologate that day. So Thursday they have to turn up to the race with the fairing that they're going to race for the season. So they get to race a non-aero and an aero one, and the aero one that they homologate on Thursday before the race is allowed to be you know, you can remove things from it, but you can't add to it. So most of the manufacturers that I've been looking at have different stages, you know, especially the Ducati, the Suzuki. You can take the bottom half off and it still be safe and still be basically made up of 2 loops, and you can take half of it. But yeah, all they're trying to do is get the best aero package before Thursday homologation, because then they have to run that for the season with only 1 change. Every manufacturer's only allowed 1 modification any time of the year after that. So that's all. It's a bit of a race to get the right one.
Well, Simon, as ever, thanks so much for everything that you've brought us live from pit lane in Qatar. Of course, there's 1 more day to go, and well, you can go and relax now, put your feet up, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again tomorrow. Thanks ever so much.
You're welcome, guys.
Simon Crafar then live from pit lane as ever, doing a sterling job, taking over from Bertie himself, who'd been there for the last 2 tests. You just heard there Simon allude to the fairings and the homologations. Now, we've talked about this over the last couple of tests, but there's one person that can kind of put everything together in a nutshell for us, and that is, of course, Danny Aldridge.
The main difference from last year to this year's is that in 2017, at the start of the season, they could carry forward from 16 their fairing, or 1 option of their fairings to start the season with. So at the first race in Qatar here last year, they had 2 options. They had their 16 fairing and their first 17 fairing. And during the season, they were allowed 1 upgrade. Once they brought that upgrade into the championship, they had to remove 1 of the fairings, meaning they had 2 options only. They either removed the 16 or the initial 17. For 2018, the rule is slightly changed, is that they start the season with 1 option only, their 2018 fairing. Homologated here at the start of the first race on Thursday. They're allowed to use that all season, okay? And they're also allowed 1 further upgrade during the year. This upgrade they can bring whenever they like. After the 2nd race, 3rd race, 4th race, it's up to them. Once that's been homologated, they have 2 options for the season, and that's it.
The new fairing that can homologate during the season, is there any specification, or they can bring a completely different fairing?
Completely different. As long as it's within the rules, that obviously is not classified as wings, it's not dangerous, it's within the dimensions that are in the rule book, they can do what they like. But first, obviously, I would have to approve it. Once approved, they can use it.
And what about the first fairing that they homologate here in Qatar? During the season, they can change this fairing, they can take out some part.
The only thing they're allowed to do is remove material. Okay, that's what they're allowed to do. So, for example, Phillip Island, with the nature of the track, with the wind, they tend to drill holes in the side. This is just to take the pressure off the fairing a little bit, so they're allowed to do that. Okay, if you see some of the fairings now, a lot of them are multiple part fairings, so they have a top section, lower section, and they are literally normally bolted on. So in certain tracks, they might not want these attachments, as we call them, and they can remove them and add them as they wish. They can't actually change the overall design, but they are allowed to remove material.
Well, good luck keeping up with that over the course of the season. Of course, today is a big day for the teams. They want to get that really nailed on today so that they can begin really testing in preparation for the Grand Prix coming up in a couple of weeks tomorrow. Andrea Iannone still fastest with just under 10 minutes left of day 2. Matt, just before we move on quickly on that, Ducati have always been the trendsetters when it comes to fairings and wings and things in the past. It looks like one or two teams might just be copying them a bit.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. I mean, yeah, Ducati have really been at the forefront of this aerodynamic technology, and everybody seems to be copying them. They've got this sort of that box concept, haven't they, on either side of the frames. Aprilia looks very, very similar to Ducati. That Honda bodywork we just saw there that Marc Marquez was trying today, it's moving very close to what Ducati have got. So you've got to say that the Ducati guys working back in the wind tunnel and the design department in Bologna have done a really good job because everybody's kind of morphing towards what they ran last year.
Well, the decisions will be made, of course, and we'll be seeing what they've chosen when we get to Qatar 2 weeks today, FP1. We're going to move on to another social media question there. You see bottom right corner. What about Pedrosa's contract? Any hint for us? Thank you. Good question. Me and Matt are going to discuss this a bit further, but we have our man on the ground live. Jorge Espinos is going to be with Dani Pedrosa in just a few moments and hopefully might ask him the question. But it is one that has been asked quite a lot on social media because, of course, Marc Marquez has got the signature down on the dotted line for another couple of years. What about Dani?
It's all been quite quiet, hasn't it, about Dani Pedrosa's future, to be honest, Steve. I'm sure having a little chat with him in Thailand and Malaysia, his intention, like Valentino Rossi's, is to carry on. And having been in that factory Honda team for such a long time, I can't believe right now Dani's going to be looking at too many other options. But it has been quite quiet. Now Honda can probably commence negotiations, serious negotiations with Dani Pedrosa. Now they have Marc Marquez signed up. Let's not beat around the bush here. Their main goal was to make sure they have Marc Marquez renewed on that new 2-year contract. That's all done and dusted now, and I'm sure Dani would like to stay. A lot of people will be saying, is time up? He's got to try and win the championship for the first time. He's been in the Repsol Honda team for an awfully long time. There's always been this dilemma, well, who could come in and do a better job than Dani Pedrosa? He's been a great wingman for Marc Marquez over the last couple of years, but you've got to say there is a real flurry, a real bunch of hot young talent coming through Moto3 and Moto2, which for me this year probably puts Dani maybe in the most vulnerable position he has been. I mean, what's not to say that Joan Mir, talking hypothetically, does not come into Moto2, tears up the Moto2 class like Maverick Vinales did a couple of years ago, and Maverick was offered that place in the factory Suzuki squad and he took it. Now, I'm sure Alberto Puig, who we know is a pretty renowned kingmaker, a renowned talent spotter, he's going to be keeping his eyes closely on those two guys. So, you know, I think Dani's going to have to show in those first 3 or 4 Grand Prix at least one win if he's going to convince Honda to stay. It's that age-old question, isn't it? What will Honda do with Dani, because he's been there such a long time?
You sort of get the feeling that maybe a 1-year contract offer is going to be on the table here with the view of the other riders that are moving up. And we've spoken about Joan Mir all year long. We wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure our comments are really pleasing Michael Bartolomei right at this moment in time. But a 1-year deal for him sounds about right, doesn't it?
It could be right. Who knows, Steve, what will Honda do, or what will they want to do? Could we have in 2019 a Marquez dream team? Will Alex Marquez, who for sure is on the HRC radar, will they want to have brotherly love in the same team? That as we said, there are lots of different names. There's so many young talented riders now coming through the system that the factories have got options. You know, it's not like in the past where you were sort of trying to find, there was 2 or 3 who you could cherry pick from, very obvious. In Moto2 now, there's a big bunch of riders, so it kind of makes the factory's job that little bit easier to cherry pick the class.
I'm speaking to Simon Crafar previous couple of tests about Suzuki. Andrea Iannone with a lot of pressure on his shoulders here. He's obviously doing a good job so far, and as we get 5 minutes to go. But do you think Suzuki might even fancy a sniff at someone like Dani Pedrosa, with Alex Rins in the hot seat at the moment going well, an experienced candidate like Dani Pedrosa?
Yeah, I mean, Dani, of course, what he would bring to the table is vast experience. He's probably the best rider in history never to win the World Championship. I think, actually, we can now cross live to Doha to hear from the man himself, and let's wonder if he does talk about that possible new contract.
Well, Dani, explain me about this second day, a tricky day after 2 crashes yesterday. How was it?
Yes, today was a little bit difficult because of the crash yesterday. I have some pain in my left hand, so I try to go slowly and manage the day by not doing many laps and not pushing too much. So we spend some time doing some setting, and we'll see how is the hand after today runs, and if I feel better or worse. And it's going to be important because it's tomorrow the last day, so we want to finish the test, testing as many things as possible before the first race.
Lots of fans are asking in our social media channels about your future. What can you tell them?
At this moment, we are working for the first race, and still we are not thinking about the future. So we focus on today and then tomorrow, because it's the immediate thing we want to do is be good in the first race.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Thanks there to Jorge Espinos for asking the question. You could have put quite a lot of money on that answer coming out of Dani Pedrosa's mouth, Matt. Disappointment there to hear about the pain in the left hand for him. That's a bit of a worry, isn't it, going into tomorrow?
Yeah, it is, because I'd imagine that a lot of riders tomorrow, Steve, would have been looking at probably running full race simulations just to get crucial data and information ahead of that first Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Saw some photos actually last night of Danny's second crash at Turn 2. We saw that footage of his badly damaged Repsol Honda. And it's understandable to see why Danny's perhaps nursing a couple of bangs and bruises today. The photos were pretty uncomfortable viewing. He was bouncing through the gravel trap pretty heavily, like he cartwheeled once he hit the gravel. So it did look like a pretty big crash for Dani Pedrosa, and not what you need so close to the season. But thankfully, touch wood, it's nothing more serious than a few bumps and scrapes, because as you rightly pointed out last night, Steve, Dani Pedrosa has been pretty susceptible to a few injuries.
Well, it looks as though that's the question answered anyway for Dani Pedrosa. We don't really know, basically, what he's going to do, and he's not really giving much of an answer, unlike Repsol Honda, to keep their cards close to their chest. Just one last thing about Dani Pedrosa before we move on to another team. I said to Simon a couple of weeks ago that, strangely, if you look at the statistics, he had the most podiums over the season behind his teammate Marc Marquez. Is it not, though, for Danny about the rounds where he's not so good at, what he's got to pick up? Because sometimes Danny just goes completely absent, and he'll sometimes finish in 10th or 11th, and that is costly over the course of the championship. It
is. The two areas that Danny's got to work on this year, Steve, to have any hope of fighting for the World Championship, is in the rain. And when it's cold. He's so small, he has struggled to generate temperature into those new Michelin tyres over the last couple of years. He said he's been trying to work on that throughout the winter. He's been keeping it very secret about what he's been doing. I think actually we can go to one of Dani Pedrosa's former Repsol Honda teammates back in the day, Andrea Dovizioso, who's had a really good day. Second on the timesheet, second as he was last night, and we can hear from him now in Qatar.
Well, Andrea, second day of test here. We saw you doing a long run. It was a tricky day also with raining, with problems on the grip. Explain.
Yes, we couldn't make a normal day for the rain, but at the end we was able to test what we wanted today, and I'm really happy because at the end the condition was good, the track was really fast, and our speed is pretty good. We did the best lap in our long run. It's not a real long run, but we did 12 laps, and I'm very happy. I was able to keep a good pace. In the past, it was always difficult for me. In this track, our bike worked very well, also in the past, and this year looks a little bit better. So I'm happy about what we tried today, because we compare again the chassis. There is a positive and negative. We did the long run with the new chassis. Still is not clear what we will use, but in any case both are working pretty good. I'm very happy about today, but there is tomorrow to work and the weekend. I think there is a lot of time for everybody to work to improve the situation, but really happy.
I want to ask you about what changed this season, because you started as one of the favorites, you and Ducati. What changed? Something in your mind or in the way you work?
No, in the way we work, no, but for sure change, and it's just positive, because it's the first year we are really a contender of the championship from the beginning. Last year we wasn't like this, so this make me happier, and I feel good in this situation, and And we worked very well in the first in the test we did until now. You know, normally during the test it's always difficult to test everything you have in the right way, but until now we did everything perfect. Malaysia, Thailand, and today and yesterday. So really happy. So I'm happy about all the piece Ducati bring from the winter. Still, there is a few areas where I'm not too happy, but in this track our bike worked very well.
Thank you, Andrea.
Andrea Dovizioso and Qatar on that Ducati, a lethal combination in the past, but the difference there is just what he said, Matt. He's a contender from the start. Now, this is a completely new Dovizioso that we're dealing with because he comes into the new season not thinking, well, I'm hoping for finishing in the top 3 and then I'll pick up a couple of wins. If they can get the ball rolling from the start, serious contender. Dovi is in it again.
He is, Steve. He just looks so super calm and relaxed, doesn't he? Finally, Andrea Dovizioso last year convinced himself. He's perhaps always been lacking that self-belief about his potential to fight the very, very best. Well, he proved that. Those classic races last year in Austria and Japan. It takes something special to beat Marc Marquez on the final lap of a Grand Prix. I do wonder, though, what he loves about second place in Qatar so much. Second place in the test last year, second place last night, second tonight, and second place in the race the last 3 years. I think we'll see the standings actually very shortly, confirming another good night for Dovi and Ducati.
I'm sure he won't mind being bridesmaid for another day, provided his name is on the top of the pile in a couple of weeks' time. Let's get confirmation then to you of the standings at the end of day 2. And it's Andrea Iannone, another rider who has notoriously gone well around this Losail circuit. Fastest from Andrea Dovizioso, Marc Marquez, Johann Zarco, Alex Rins up there again. We just keep on talking about that name. Cal Crutchlow's there in 6th, Viñales 7th, Danilo Petrucci 8th and Jack Miller 9th.
Yeah, as you say, Steve, a great job by Alex Rins there in 5th. Danny Pedrosa rounding out the top 10, nursing that damaged left hand. Valentino Rossi just missing out in 11th place. Big improvement today by Aleix Espargaro on the factory Aprilia in 12th. Taka Nakagami, he had a tumble earlier on, he's 13th. Jorge Lorenzo was inside the top 6 last night. Difficult time tonight though. Lorenzo down in 14th, just ahead of the 2 Brits, Scott Redding and Bradley Smith. Tito Rabat on the Reale Vinci Ducati there in 17th.
Further down there, you can see Franco Morbidelli. We've got something for you with Franco coming up a bit later, so stay tuned for that. Happy Siren continues to improve, chipping away there on the Tech 3 Yamaha ahead of Tom Luthi, Xavier Simeon and Mika Kallio, who is in today to test for the injured Pol Espargaro. So Andrea Iannone fastest on day 2. Now, fastest yesterday was Maverick Viñales, and he seemed a lot happier. Today, he's managed to end it in the top 8. But let's see what his thoughts and feelings are at the end of the second day of testing in Qatar.
Okay, Maverick. How was the second day here in Qatar? Tricky day, and I think with some problems on the front tire with the grip.
Well, for me it was a positive day, even if we try many things. Compared yesterday, we lose a little bit of grip. It's that same feeling than every test. We have to work even more, even harder, and try. It's true that we improve on the rhythm, but then on the time attack, I didn't feel so well as yesterday. I could not improve a lot. But I think for tomorrow we have more clear things, and we're going to try at least to do one long run with full tank to see how the bike it works.
And to make a step ahead tomorrow, what do you need?
Well, I need a little bit in all the areas. Honestly, we are losing a lot also in the acceleration. I didn't feel so good there. I spin a lot and the electronic is working so much. So we need to find out what we was missing today and trying to improve tomorrow.
Thank you, Maverick.
You know, sometimes I think I wouldn't mind playing Maverick Viñales at poker because he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's showing clearly there signs of disappointment. It's not for the first time during the winter tests. This is so bizarre coming into the 2018 season, Matt, because when you look back to last year, he topped everything. He had a huge smile on his face as he was making his way into Qatar. There is panic setting in here a little bit, isn't there?
There has to be, Steve, because at the moment Maverick just can't seem to string any kind of consistency together. That's been the main issue. I mean, like I say, this time last year he looked absolutely unbeatable. a shadow of the rider we saw 1 year ago, Maverick Vinales. He was struggling so badly in Malaysia and in Thailand. And again, here we've just heard him in conditions which normally suit the Yamaha, those cooler conditions where the electronics are perhaps not having such an influence. But he said there, we just cannot get the bike hooked up coming out the corners. This is a problem that Valentino Rossi, his teammate, has persistently talked about pretty much in the whole of the Michelin era, and certainly in the controlled electronic era of Magneti Marelli. So again, we repeat, it's an issue that Yamaha just have not got a handle on, as well as Honda and Ducati have as well. And it's got to be so frustrating, hasn't it, for a rider like Maverick? He just doesn't know from one day to the next what the bike's going to do, and it's that unpredictability which is going to worry him and frustrate him, because he's putting his absolute maximum effort in. He's riding the bike no different to what he was last year, but it's just not coming to him. It's much more difficult, and that's got to be frustrating. And with only one more night left to go in Qatar, they have got to be a little bit worried. And let's not forget, Steve, this has been Yamaha's backyard. Losail International Circuit in Qatar has been brilliant for Yamaha. They've won three last years in a row. They've won 5 out of the last 6 Grand Prix here. So it's a circuit which the bike tends to really like. So they've still got a lot of work to do in Iwata. They are definitely behind Honda and Ducati, make no doubt about that.
I asked this question to Simon a few weeks ago. I'm interested to get your thoughts on this one as well. Can you remember the last time Yamaha were in this position at the start of a new season?
Well, I interviewed Valentino Rossi a couple of weeks ago in Buriram, and he said there's no quick fix. They know what the problems are. Valentino and Maverick have fed back information over the last 6 months about what the issues are, but it's not a quick fix. Valentino doesn't think there's going to be anything. There's no magic one cure for Qatar in 2 weeks' time. They're working more for the future, probably into the European season when we get to Jerez. So at the moment, there's no quick fix. I think actually we can hear some thoughts from Maverick Vinales' crew chief Ramon Facada on what his rider's been up to in Qatar this week.
In which point are you with the bike few weeks before the start of the season?
So far, quite good, but we see how is the today result, because the weather changed a lot. Condition will be different, sure, the grip will change, and now we had some problem when the track has been changing. We had some issues, so we see how is today, how is tomorrow, mainly with the last day.
It's been like a pre-season of up and downs. Some days like good, bad. Do you think that you're going to stabilize that?
I hope so. So yesterday was quite constant. Just in the beginning, the track was quite dirty. This is normal here because it's many sand and so a bit windy. But at the end, we make quite a constant pace, and I hope today we can keep.
What about the fairings, and you have to homologate this kind of stuff after this test? Do you have clear everything?
Yeah, for this track, yes, but you have to see the other track. So now I think the rules for the fairing is quite clear. So we know very well how to working, and now we have the different fairing we can adapt and we can use in a different circuit.
Which is the plan for tomorrow and today? Is preparing the race?
Yeah, we plan to make some long run. Also, we have some more items to test. We need now to improve the bike, just to adjust. Now the bike is working, and for the first race here, we need to fix exactly which is the best configuration.
Okay. If there was an image to sum up how Maverick Vinales' testing has gone in this winter, it would be a picture of Facada scratching his head. But over on the other side of the garage, here he is, the man himself, Valentino Rossi. We'll talk more about him in a moment. This is the live interview coming in from Qatar.
Well, Valentino, yesterday you say in Italian that you are not going to create a satellite team with the Skyver for the next 2 years. That means that are you going to follow 2 years riding with Yamaha?
Still, we're still speaking, but I think yes.
And you are still speaking, and when you can say something?
But when we are ready, I think that. Anyway, we are we are not in delay, so we are also, come si dice il contrario, in advance. So we are in time. We have time, but I think will be not a big problem.
Speaking about the test, how do you feel today on the second day?
Allora, the position is not fantastic at the end because in the time attack I had some problem with the front tire, and I cannot do. So I'm quite. Behind, but the pace is not so bad, some average. We work a lot also today, And we try to understand, because we have problems, especially with the front tire. After some lap, I started to lose some grip, and it looks like that in this condition for us it's difficult to finish the race with a good pace. So we need still to work tomorrow and try to improve this problem.
Thank you, Vale.
Thanks to Jorge Espinos there. Well, there you go. You heard it from the man himself. I'll be very surprised if we line up on the grid come Qatar in a couple of weeks and it's not all signed, sealed and delivered. But equally, there are problems, as you just mentioned, on that side of the garage as well. Things don't seem quite as negative in Valentino's camp as they are in Mavericks, but, you know, there are still things to work on.
Yeah, there are. Valentino is the master of putting a positive spin on any scenario, though, isn't he? Looking at that interview with Jorge, I think he's already signed. Yeah. I think it's pretty clear. I wouldn't be surprised if, like 2 years ago, Yamaha made a big announcement at the first Grand Prix in Qatar. If you're happy to continue, Yamaha want you to continue, why delay it? It's a routine renegotiation, really, as far as Valentino is concerned. He seems happier than Maverick, but he's not happy. There's still a lot of work to do. It looks like in terms of their consistency over race distance, a few issues there with the front tyre, which Simon alluded to earlier on. We do know, Steve, Qatar, it's in the middle of the desert, Doha. It can be a very abrasive circuit. When it gets windy, there's a lot of dust and debris gets blown onto the circuit. So that could be an issue. Mitchell, of course, they'll have a good look at that. But Valentino, yeah, a bit indifferent, really. It's hard to judge, isn't it, over this winter testing, but what you do know about Rossi, Steve, is come Sunday night in 2 weeks' time, he's going to be there. He always is there. That's the Valentino way of doing it. I think even before here at this Grand Prix, I think when he won a couple of years ago, he did it from the third row of the grid. I remember a swashbuckling performance with Marc Marquez years ago, in Marquez's debut. I think he came from 10th onto the podium. Come Sunday night, when points are up for grabs, Valentino Rossi, make no mistake, he's going to be there.
His hunger is unquestionable. He just wants more and more. He still wants to win races. The fact that there's a 2-year deal being talked about here and not a 1-year deal, do you think that's in relation to where Yamaha are at the moment? He wants to go out with a big bang. He wants to win races. Do you think that's got anything to do with it or not?
I just think it's amazing. Testament to his desire, his motivation. He's got more money in the bank than he could ever spend for the rest of his life. You think, Steve, if he signs a new contract, he's going to be racing in MotoGP at 41, which is unheard of in the modern era. You talk about modern sporting greats that are doing what he's doing. You think of Roger Federer, who's having a bit of a career renaissance. But Valentino, it's fantastic for the sport. For sure, for me, he's going to be here for another 2 years at least.
Well, we've been talking about Valentino Rossi, and of course we talked about Johann Zarco, and we'll be talking a lot more about the Frenchman over the course of the 2018 season. Let's catch up with his thoughts at the end of day 2.
Zarco, second on the timesheets at the moment. It's been a good day for you.
Yeah, great day. We had a great improvement with the new tire. I'm happy for that. Even with used tire and medium tire, we had a great pace, so it's pretty interesting condition. Way better than yesterday, so we found what was missing, and we still work on it, because I feel that we are on a good level, but maybe not on the top level to fight for victory. So that's the work, and what I can feel on the back, it's really nice here. The top speed is also great, so I enjoy a lot.
Anything specific you've got in plan for tomorrow aside from more of the same thing you were working on today?
Exactly on the same way of working. Always try small things to get a better feeling, and overall, when feeling is good and then lap time is coming better, we have everything in hands.
Thanks a lot, Johan.
Exactly the same way of working are the key words there from Johann Zarco, because he does the same thing every time, and he will always put 100% commitment in, no matter what's going on off circuit, Matt. If anyone's in doubt about whether Zarco will be putting all of his efforts into winning races with Yamaha, or even if he's jumping ship, then they need not worry.
No, absolutely. Johann Zarco was the rookie revelation last year, Steve. Tech 3 Yamaha, they're splitting at the end of this year. They've never had a win in that long 20-year association. I can just see Johann Zarco. He's going to do it this year. I think he will break that long victory duck. So it's been super impressive from him.
Marc Marquez, of course, is the world champion coming into this season. He is still the man with the target on his back, although he did have a bit of a tumble earlier on. I think we're going to get some images in a moment post-crash. The good news is that rider is absolutely okay. Always good news. Here we can see the bike then being wheeled back. This is always going to happen. It's Marc Marquez.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Mark, he tends to go out there, and every single lap, even in testing, you only learn key information when you're pushing absolutely on the limit, and we know that Marquez can push on the limit. Interesting that you can see that crash did come with that revised bodywork that he was running. Turn 2, it's a gnarly old corner, isn't it, Steve? Especially, as we said last night, when the temperature drops past 7 o'clock, when it's race time in 2 weeks, when that humidity and dew starts to sit on the surface. And as Simon made a great point earlier on, it's the first left-hander you've had for quite some time, so you've given the chance for the tyre, certainly on that left-hand side, for the temperature to drop out of it. Johann Zarco crashed there in the race last year when he was leading, so he's pretty fortunate. It's not the fastest crash you can have in Qatar, but you lose the front so quickly, you don't half slam down onto the tarmac. We've seen a couple of guys in the past dislocate or fracture collarbones, but as he's proved so often in the past, 27 crashes last year on his way to win the World Championship, he tends to bounce pretty well, doesn't he, Mark?
He does, and the thing is, I think the frightening thing from all of this testing, I mean, testing is testing. We shouldn't read too much into it, but if you were going to read anything into it, you'd be thinking, oh dear, because what they've actually found is a more stable platform and a more powerful bike for the world champion Marc Marquez, who is already unbeatable in terms of championships, looking at 4 in the last 5 years. I mean, that is a frightening prospect, isn't it, for his rivals?
Yeah, frightening, I think, is the optimum word, Steve. I just love the way that this guy goes about his work. He's got God-given talent that most of us won't have in our little finger. He's just an incredible rider. And what I like about him as well, he's a grafter. He backs up the talent with a lot of hard work. 2 weeks ago in Thailand, Honda are experimenting with this carbon fibre swing arm. They don't even know if it's going to be a viable option to race, but Marquez went out there and did almost a full race simulation to get crucial data and information. That's how you learn. That's how you understand whether that swing arm will be an option for him. He just goes out there and does the hard work, and he is such a key asset for HRC. No wonder they were desperate to get him signed up on another 2-year contract. Great news for them, of course. Great news for Marquez, because sometimes over the last 4 or 5 years, you do have to ask the question, where would Honda be without Marc Marquez? Danny Pedrosa and Cal Crutchlow on their day have been able to deliver top-notch results, but in terms of consistency, a guy that is nailed on pretty much to fight for the championship over 18 or 19 rounds as it is this year. He's going to be your man. I think actually now we can go live to the Losail International Circuit in Qatar to hear from Marc Marquez. An eventful day for him, a crash at turn number 2. Let's see what he had to say about it.
Well, Marc, how was the second day? We saw you trying like a new fairing with some new parts, but you crashed. Explain us.
Yeah, this second day was a little bit difficult. During the day, we started so good, on a good way, with the base from yesterday. Good lap time already, good rhythm, but then we start to try many things, and we lost a little bit the way. And then in the end, maybe the temperature started to drop, and I was with the hard front, and I lost the front on the turn 2. But then I come back in the box, and even the crash was good, because we tried the other bike that was a completely different setup, and I was even faster. So tomorrow we will see. The main target is try to confirm the setup and try to improve the rhythm, because we are third, but inside of rhythm, in the other circuits we were very strong. At the moment here we are struggling, but tomorrow is the time to do another step and be more consistent.
I want to ask you about the top speed of the Honda this year. Is improving. We saw it today, like more than 340 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, of course, one of the main items of each manufacturer, I think, but for Honda this year was try to improve the acceleration, try to improve the wheelie, try to improve the top speed. Top speed we improve, still acceleration we are working there, because in some circuits looks like we improve the wheelie, but some other circuits still we need to work there. For that reason we tried the fairings and the different kind of things, and we will see during the season where we'll be. But if you have top speed, you have a small, we are closer to, even Ducati is faster, but we are closer to them.
it's true that Honda is working faster than ever when you claim something.
Yes, yeah. I mean, 2013 also was quite. The reaction was really quick, but that time the bike was working perfect, honestly. And but this year looks like everything is clear. I mean, the reaction of Honda is really quick, and yeah, I like it. I appreciate it a lot, and I enjoy it because I push on the track, but I see that they push also. Always they push, but now looks like what they bring is working well.
Thank you, Marc.
Thank you.
Third today then for Marc Marquez, and pretty much confirming everything that you said before we went to get that interview. Cold front tyre. There aren't many riders though that say that the crash was good.
He just finds the positive in every situation. That's another real strong character point of Marc Marquez. He never gets beaten up. He never lets things get on top of him. That's what the team love about him as well. He's always lifting them up on a bad day. He's just got such a great persona, a great character, that winning mentality. And that's just so hard to stop. That's why his rivals have found it so hard to stop for him.
Now, a rider that's sort of acclimatising himself, shall we say, to a Honda in MotoGP is the Moto2 world champion, Franco Morbidelli. Now, so far, he's had to play second fiddle with Takaki Nakagami, but he's getting used to life. He's getting used to his new team as well. So, this is quite a nice little video for you as Franco introduces you to his team.
Hello, I'm Franco Morbidelli and I will introduce you my crew. We start from Matt, which is doing some stuff here. What you're doing, Matt? Tell us.
The preparation for next week, make sure all the correct sponsors are on, ready for our new bodywork livery.
Okay, so Matt is usually here, but he's working also with us on the bikes. And he's carrying off the stickers and stuff like that, right? Spare parts. Now we move on. It's actually difficult because I don't know that much this kind of box, you know. I've been in Moto2 for 4 years, so I know a little bit more Moto2, but also MotoGP. Now it's gonna be different and hard to learn. We have Martin there. Hola, Martin. He's the guy that cares about the tires and the fuel and also a little bit of spare parts, right? No. But okay, tires and fuel. Now we move on in the front part of the pit box where I arrive and I have all my crew here on the side. We have Diego, the crew chief. Ciao, Diego.
Ciao, ragazzi.
We have Pablo.
Hello.
My data guy. We have Sticchio. Ciao, Stick. And this is the, I would say, the most important part of our crew, you know, because it's the brain. And it's where we study and where we try to improve. Then we have Ozzy. Hello, Ozzy.
Hello.
Belgian mechanic, really good mechanic.
Hello. Yeah.
Then we have my two bikes. Then we have Nacho, Nen.
Hello.
Oh. And that's it basically. These are my two bikes. We have a red bike and a green bike. Two don't have number 1 and number 2 bike. And that's it. This is my number, this is my name on the bike, but I think we will change it a little bit for the season. I show you where I keep my helmet and everything. This is where I keep my helmet and all my stuff. Earplugs, drinks and stuff like that. This is where I watch the lap times usually. But also the box is gonna be a little different for the European races, so this is not the box we use every time. And now I gotta go testing, so ciao to everybody. Ciao.
They don't make two of Franco Morbidelli. I don't think he's going to get a job hosting Cribs anytime soon, but a real character is Franco, and he's looking forward to his season. So let's get his thoughts then at the end of a testing day 2 for him in Qatar.
Well, Franco, second day of tests here, a bit rainy during the morning, tricky day.
Yeah, it rained a little bit this early afternoon,
But anyway, it's possible to make some laps. Well, to make a lot of laps anyway, because it stopped to rain. So this is good for us. And yeah, we worked on the setup of the bike. We worked on the riding style, and actually we improved a little bit. So I'm happy about that. And now we still have to work and keep improving.
The race is coming closer and closer. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you feel that you are everything on the side?
No. I mean, we have to work, and also for the race it's gonna be tricky. But anyway, it's like this. The good thing is that we are in the big group, I think. So it's gonna be at least a really fun race.
Okay, Franco, I want to ask you, you are the reigning champion of Moto2. How do you see Moto2 this year, 2018?
Well, this year Moto2 is going to be interesting. I mean, there are many riders, many fast riders, so it's going to be really interesting to see. Bagnaia, Pasini, Oliveira, Marquez, many riders, as I said. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Thank you, Franco.
I noticed there that he forgot to mention a certain Joan Mir, who will be sporting the same colours and moves on to his bike for the 2018 season. Back to school for Franco Morbidelli, Matt, for 2018. It looks like he's already got a challenger in Taka Nakagami, but we shouldn't underestimate the actual challenge itself that these riders face in 2018.
It's a tough move, isn't it, Steve, from Moto2 to MotoGP, and perhaps even a little bit tougher when you're making it on a Honda. We know that the Honda's not the easiest bike to ride. It takes the mercurial talents of Marc Marquez to win a world championship on a factory Honda. If we look at Stefan Prine, the rider coach, the very hilarious rider coach, shall we say, for Franco Morbidelli and Team Marc VDS. It is a tough transition. It's a big step up. You know, you're dealing with a lot more horsepower, different tyres completely, a lot more rider aids than what those guys are used to coming up from Moto2. And he hasn't really got a lot of big bike experience like Taka Nakagami has. You know, Nakagami's got a lot of experience from riding in the Suzuka A-Tower on Honda Fireblade. So that might just give Taka the edge right now. We know how difficult it is to ride that Honda, Steve. Look at Tito Rabat and Jack Miller. They've jumped off the Honda that they've been on in Marc VDS for the last 2 years, and straight away they're loving life on the factory Ducati. So it's not an easy challenge for certainly a rookie coming up onto a Honda machine.
He's also got the change of mindset to deal with, hasn't he? Because he's used to winning races. All last year he was the #1 cookie. He's won the championship. That must take some doing in your head to actually think, hang on, right, we're not looking at the top of a timesheet here. We're looking somewhere down the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for the rookies, the 5 of them that are coming up from Moto2, including Sairin, Xavier Simeon and the like, their goal this year is going to be top rookie. That will be their prime focus. And if they can threaten that top 10 on a regular basis, that will be their main challenge. But yeah, it's not easy. You know, the depth of competition in MotoGP this year, it's stronger than ever it is before. So when you're coming up from Moto2, it's a tough challenge. You're going at the deep end, that's for sure.
And the other rookies, of course, coming in. Tom Lute's, he's missed a lot of action, so he's on the back foot immediately as we come into this year. Tom is a methodical rider, so he's going to make sure everything's absolutely right before he starts to push. So it shouldn't really be an alarming sort of moment for any Lute fans out there that his name is towards the bottom end.
No, and people say, well, he only missed the Valencia test through injury, but when you're a rookie, just missing 3 days of testing can set you back a long way. That injury proved really costly for him at the end of the season. Obviously cost him the chance to fight for the Moto2 World Championship as well. Actually, Tom Lute, we're looking at some pictures earlier on from Qatar. Tumble for Lute, all part of the steep learning curve, of course. I think actually, Steve, Tom Lute is in a slightly tougher situation than the other 2 Moto2 rookies. Now, that might sound strange because he's the most experienced of them. He's had to be patient to wait for his chance in the Premier class, getting to the age of 31. But we said how tough that transition is to come from Moto2 to MotoGP. Well, Franco Morbidelli's only been there 2 or 3 years. Hafi Siren the same. Tom Lute has been a Moto2 rider since 2010, the very first year. So old habits die hard. His habits are perhaps going to be harder to break than some of the others. So I think actually the learning curve for Lute is probably a little bit higher than some of those other rookies that have come up with him.
Yeah, it's a very good point, actually. Well, let's hear now from Tom Lute and get some reaction on how his day's gone and, of course, see how he is after his crash.
Well, Tom, tell me about this second day of test here in Qatar with a bit rainy at the beginning.
Yeah, we had to wait a little bit. It was like not really raining, but some drops. I went out the first exit like just before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I did like 2 laps, and it starts to drops on the visor, and then we did a small break. So it was a little bit a waiting game, but finally we could go out. We could continue the work from yesterday.
How are your feelings? Because the pre-season is ending, so how are you feeling?
We still have a lot of work for sure. I'm learning lap by lap, and it's getting better and better. I think we did a quite big improvement already from yesterday to today, and now I'm just looking forward, you know, to learn more, to improve more even than tomorrow for the last day.
Okay, in other things I want to ask you, Tom, about many years on the Moto2, on the intermediate class. How do you see this year the intermediate class? Who are your preference or your favorites?
Wow, the Moto2 class is it's a great school, you know, for going into the MotoGP class for sure, and it's always spectacular because it's very tight together. It's a very nice class for sure. I'm looking forward to watch the races, but it's going to be tight, you know. There will be many riders like every year who can win races, and in the end, it's I think. It will be this guy in front who is the smartest all over the season and can keep the rhythm up, you know, and be consistent. This is one of the key points, but it's very difficult to say today who it will be.
Any name? No, you compete against Oliveira last year, was very strong.
Although Pino's desperate to drag a name out of Tom Lutece, he can't get him off the fence.
Yeah, he was keeping his cards pretty close to his chest, so wasn't he, Tom Lutece? But what he did say, and what Franco Morbidelli alluded to as well, we're focusing on MotoGP here in Qatar, but the Moto2 World Championship this year, wide open with 5 of those top riders coming up. It's going to be intriguing to see how it pans out.
Going on to another team now with a lot of hard work. We mentioned Lutece and Morbidelli and Aprilia. This is a head-scratcher coming into the season because I get the real feeling that they are well behind. I say I get the real feeling. It's plain obvious that they're well behind. They're not going to really get the ball rolling until a couple of Grand Prix in. Your thoughts on Aleix Espargaro? Because he's a hard worker and he's proven over the last couple of years that he's got the capabilities to knock on the door for podiums. So how frustrated do you think Aleix is coming into 2018?
Yeah, I'm not sure he'd be too frustrated. I think Aleix has done everything he can. The ball now is firmly in the court of Aprilia and those engineers back in Nawali. I think Aleix lost 4 kilos in weight. We do know that once they get to 4th, 5th and 6th gear, they've got a strong engine, Aprilia. Where they're lacking is down the bottom end, the grunts coming out the corners. 1st, 2nd and 3rd gear, they were getting badly exposed on a tight track like Buriram a couple of weeks ago. You do know that this man on your screen is now Aleix Espargaro. Every single lap that he puts in, he's going to be trying 100%. He said actually 2 weeks ago in Buriram, he's never ridden harder on the final day of that test. He is giving his absolute all, extracting the last bit of performance out of that Aprilia RSGP. What he needs is a bit of help from that engine, Steve. Fast flowing, this Qatar circuit, sweet handling motorcycle, that Aprilia, but they are missing out coming off those low gear corners, and that's where they really are suffering. Hopefully they'll have the full spec brand new engine for the first Grand Prix in Qatar in 2 weeks' time. You might say, well, that's a little bit late, because they've not had a chance then to iron out any potential teething problems. Cast your minds back to last year, when Aprilia chased performance, when they went in pursuit of extra horsepower, they compromised reliability. They did find it difficult for a period to get reliability. So fingers crossed that that's going to be okay. We can hear actually about a more positive day today for Aleix Espargaro. He was talking to our guys in Qatar.
Well, Aleix, tell me, how was this second day here at Losail? A tricky day. I think some problems on the grip on the front tire with the rain at the beginning.
Yeah, not that bad. I think we must be happy. We are doing improvements. I feel much better than in the last test in Thailand. We're struggling a little bit on the front braking. I feel that I squash a little bit the front tire and doesn't allow me to make the speed corner I wish. But overall, I'm satisfied. One single lap, I think that we can, or we have to improve, because we are in 12th place, which is not our objective. But in race pace, we are quite competitive. Actually, I'm confident and curious to see the race simulation tomorrow of everybody, and my one also, because I think we will be very close from the top guys.
What about the new engine for the first race? Maybe you can do a step over. How was to do all the precision without the engine?
We know perfectly where we lose. We know perfecly our strong and our tricky points. In the last split here, in the fast corner, I felt that we lose a little bit of, we miss a little bit of push.
But we know that the new engine will come for first round in 2 weeks' time. I'm sure, I'm confident that we will improve a little bit, and this makes me happy, because if with this engine we manage to be close on the race simulation tomorrow, it means that we will be even better on the race weekend.
Thank you, Les.
Thank you.
Spargaro 12th, Matt, which he's not overly happy with, but MotoGP is in an era where it's so competitive at the moment. If you look at the actual statistics on paper, we've got factory Hondas, we've got factory Ducatis, factory Yamahas, factory Suzukis, we've got Cal Crutchlow, who's on as good a factory bike as anyone else. As Johann Zarco flying, that's 10 spots already taken up.
Steve, if you're half a second a lap off the pace in MotoGP, in the modern MotoGP era, you can be struggling to get inside the points. It's that close, that intense, that you cannot afford to be giving up thousandths of a second, let alone tenths. So they'll be pinning their hopes. They are desperately hoping that this new engine that's coming in a couple of weeks' time for the first Grand Prix in Qatar can solve some of their issues. Because as Aleix said, in terms of race pace, he's pretty confident, and he's going to have a try on that race simulation tomorrow. So I'll be quite curious actually to see Aleix's rhythm over that long run. And one man who's been absolutely superb throughout winter testing has been Alex Rins on the factory Suzuki. Top 5 again tonight for the Spanish rider, and as you can see on your screens right now, he's just about to do a live interview over in Qatar. Over to you guys.
Well, Alex, it was a tricky day here in Qatar. Rain at the beginning, then we saw some riders with problems on the front tire. Explain about the second day here in Qatar.
Well, for me it was really good. We don't try many things. We just been focused a little bit on the race pace, and that's it. Trying a little bit. Small things on the suspension, that not too much, and I think that was really positive, because our rhythm, our pace, it's very good, and also we are fast, at one lap. So I'm very happy about today. Just tomorrow, I will try to do like a race simulation for see where we are in reality. And nothing more.
Andrea Iannone, your teammate, is on the top of the timesheet. What does it mean for Suzuki? I mean, after a complicated season last year for both of you, are you arriving to this 2018 season very, very good?
Andrea is on fire. He did a really fast time today, but as you can see in all this pre-season, we are working really hard. They bring new parts and we try it, and mostly of the parts was perfect. Works really good, and I think that as I said yesterday, we have a really competitive bike, and we will try for fight for the top positions this year.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks to Jorge there, talking to Alex Rins. I don't think anyone should really be surprised at the revelation of Alex Rins in this winter test schedule when you look at the last 4 results for him in MotoGP last year. But he is getting better and better all the time. I've been watching the odds. They're getting lower and lower when it comes to podiums for Alex Rins this year. Me and Simon have mentioned it. You've talked about it before. It's getting better and better for Suzuki and Rins.
Thankfully for Suzuki fans and for MotoGP fans in general, Steve, it looks like Suzuki have rediscovered the form they had so brilliantly, of course, with Maverick Vinales a couple of years ago. Alex Rins, for me, has been the standout performer of this whole winter testing campaign. OK, yeah, Jorge Lorenzo stole the headlines in Malaysia. Dani Pedrosa was quickest in Thailand. But Alex Rins has not yet finished outside the top 6 in all 3 winter tests. It shows the great job that he's done in adapting more his riding style to the Suzuki. And credit to the Hamamatsu engineers back in Japan, because they took a lot of heat. They thought that they improved that bike last year to build on the success of Maverick Vinales in 2016. But really, they took a step backwards. The Suzuki was a hard bike to ride. It seems that the main thing that they've done in this winter to give confidence to Alex Rins and Andrea Iannone is just getting the balance of the chassis better. I think last year, we know that certainly Andrea Iannone, boy, does he like to attack hard on the brakes. And he just had zero confidence to do that in the front end. Every time he grabbed the front brake while carrying lean angle into the corners, he just never realised or never understood when he was going to come through the other side of the corner. It seems like Andrea is happy in that area. Suzuki have found some decent horsepower with the engine. They seem happy with the new bodywork as well. they're in a really, really good place. And as you pointed out, Steve, they finished last year really, really strongly. They tried that a couple of chassis modifications around Misano time last year, around Aragon time last year, and for those sort of last 4 or 5 Grand Prix, wet or dry, both Iannone and Alex Rins were really strong. I remember the last round of the championship last year. Of course, all the headlines were taken by Marc Marquez winning the championship, but Alex Rins came from 14th to 4th, and what an outstanding ride by this man who we're looking at now, Andrea Iannone, talking to his crew chief Marco Rigamonti. Andrea does like Qatar. He qualified on the front row of the grid last year on the Suzuki, and he crashed while he was fighting for the podium in the race. So it is a circuit that Andrea goes well at, but I think it all bodes so well that Suzuki are going to be right up there fighting again, which is great for us because, as we said last night, when the Maniac's at the front, there's going to be fireworks. He's an aggressive rider. He doesn't care for reputations. And if Andrea Iannone can take it to the likes of Marc Marquez and Andrea Dovizioso and the like, it's going to be another spectacular season.
Andrea Iannone, fast in Qatar, fastest on day 2. It looks like he's got his mojo back. Let's hear now the thoughts of his crew chief, Marco Rigamonti, to see what he makes of it all.
Well, last test of the pre-season, in which areas are you working with Andrea?
But basically, this is the last chance to start to preparing the races. So the target of this test is to test not new parts, but basically prepare the race, so confirm some choices and keep the rhythm for the season that is starting.
In which areas are you working or you have to improve for the season?
But basically, sometimes also last year we struggled with new tires, so this is important for qualifying. So we try to find some solution for make a good lap time with new tires. And the other area was the braking area where sometimes we struggle a little bit.
After this test, you have to homologate a fairing. Do you have a clear decision about the fairing of Suzuki?
Yeah, we make some tests and the decision is quite clear, so we are not worried about that.
Thank you.
Well, we're hoping to hear from the fastest man of today, Andrea Iannone, but we'll come back to him a little later on. Just a quick few words off the back of what Marco Rigamonti said there. It's important to remember here that this was going really wrong for Andrea Iannone midway through the season. Misano was a disaster. There were talks of riders coming in to replace him. So credit to him, he's managed to turn it round again.
Yeah, he was taking a lot of heat, wasn't he, at the midway point of last season, Andrea? You know, and like you say, Steve, there's a lot of rumours around at midway point of the season that he might even be dumped by Suzuki. We know Andrea Iannone is one of the fastest riders in the world. What he was able to do on the factory Ducati proved that. Put a competitive motorcycle under Iannone, and he's going to be right up there. So, yeah, there's going to be fireworks. It's great for the spectacle to have him back up there, so I can't wait.
Andrea Iannone, of course, looking to try and do everything to keep a factory contract. A man that is looking for a contract is Danilo Petrucci. So let's get his thoughts.
Danilo, a big crash for you today, along with your teammate. You okay, and what happened?
Yeah, we started the session very, very quick because we started with the tire from yesterday, and we have been on top of the time sheets for a while. But then I was in the second run trying the second bike, and was a little bit better, but was a strange crash because at turn 1 I brake like the previous lap. The same point, same speed, but I crashed. And when I crashed, I saw a man standing in the gravel, and was my teammate. And we crashed the same way, same point. I crashed 5 seconds later than him. We still don't know what's happening, but it was a scary moment. But more for Jack because I arrived at full speed, crashing. And anyway, we lost 2 hours because that bike got some parts that was not possible to switch to the other bike. But then I go in again with the medium tires and I set my best lap time. So I'm quite happy for my speed. We tried new fairings, but was already late in the night. And I think after 8 o'clock it's quite dangerous to ride. I was pushing again, but Rabat crashes in front of me. Then the laps later, I almost hit Lutece that was almost crashing in the middle of the track. So a positive day, but not so many laps.
Thanks a lot, Danilo.
Crucial time lost then for the Pramac team, Matt. Both riders going down the gravel trap. The last thing you want to see as Jack Miller is Danilo Petrucci hurtling towards you at full speed. Just talking about Danilo, it's such a huge year for him. He had his best season in MotoGP last year, but we all know that he's going to be parting company and he's looking for a factory ride. He's going to have to do the same as he did last year and more, you feel, if he's to win himself a factory contract?
Yeah, it's shop window time, isn't it, for Danilo Petrucci? Quite bold of him to say already that he's going to be leaving Pramac Ducati at the end of next year. He has been there 4 years. That experiment probably has run its course. Ducati, of course, looking to use Pramac as their feeder team, their junior team. We know that they're going to have a good look at Jack Miller and Pecco Bagnaia going into 2019. So, yeah, Petrucci needs some top results in the first half of the year to try and secure that factory contract. It looks like it won't be with Ducati. They seem pretty hell-bent on keeping Andrea Dovizioso and Jorge Lorenzo. And why wouldn't you? So, yeah, Petrucci's got to... He needs to have some top results in that first half of the year to convince a factory team that he's worthy of place. I wouldn't be surprised if Aprilia don't come sniffing. They were close to signing him last year. And I don't know, I've got a sneaky feeling that Suzuki might be keeping close tabs with him as well. You know, he brings a lot of experience. If Andrea Iannone carries on doing what he's done today, and that Alex Rins continues to show what he's potentially shown so far in winter testing, they won't need a new rider, Suzuki. But yeah, Petrucci's got a big couple of months ahead of him. The
work that he's doing now is nothing compared to some of the work he's doing in the winter as well. He's lost a lot of kilos, Matt. He's worked incredibly hard on his weight to try and be competitive this year. Now, his teammate Jack Miller, I'd say probably behind Alex Rins, we all agree that consistently Jack Miller has probably been the second standout rider of the three tests so far.
Yeah, he's been a revelation. As soon as he jumped on that GP17 in Valencia in November, Steve, he fell in love, didn't he? And he's not fallen out of love at all with that Ducati. I think actually we can go now to Qatar to hear the thoughts of the Australian on day 2.
Jack, big scary crash for you today. Are you all right? What happened?
Yeah, just sincerely, I really don't know. I lost the front. We were just out testing. You know, I was on my 4th lap or 5th lap of testing, just a little bike geometry change. We went a little bit more open angle on the front, and yeah, just mid braking, quite upright, just lost the front. Don't really know what caused it, and by the time I stopped sliding and stood up and looked back down the track, I saw Danilo coming towards me. So it was a little bit frightening, but no, still really don't know what caused the crash, if it was my fault or if there was something on the track, because, you know, for us both to go down in the space of 10 seconds was quite odd. But no, apart from that, we improved on some areas from yesterday, and yeah, improved our time a little bit, and also our race pace is more consistent today.
Did the crash set you back much for tomorrow's plan?
More today, you know, we had that, and then also we had an exhaust pipe break today, so it wasn't ideal for us today. You know, we had a few items that we wanted to test, like a front wheel and stuff like that. So it really, you know, put us on the back foot, because we had to, of course, rebuild the second bike, and then the next problem was the other bike braking. So no, we had a few dramas today, but hopefully we'll be able to get the items that we were meant to test today out of the road tomorrow.
Thanks a lot, Jack.
Just as you said there, Matt, it's all in his body language. Just looks a completely different person, and that's no disrespect to the Marc VDS team, who he had a great relationship with. But you can see the smile on his face. He's relaxed. He's calm.
Yeah, he's in a great place at the moment, Jack Millet. Like I said, he clicked straight away with that Ducati. It suits his riding style, Steve. He's going to pose a bit of a dark horse threat in a few Grand Prix this year, Jack. Certainly in rain conditions, we know he's so strong. And the Ducati is also a really good motorcycle, competitive in the wet conditions. So, yeah, I think Jack's going to be knocking on the door of a few podiums this year.
Yeah, keep your eye on the Australian throughout 2018. Now, we mentioned a couple of minutes ago who was fastest. It's Andrea Iannone. We were talking about him, and now we've got him live. So, down to Qatar we go.
Well, Andrea, second day here in Qatar, top on the time sheets. How do you feel?
For sure, it's a good day for us. We continue work. Yesterday we started very well. The thing with the bike is good, and for sure today we made a very good lap time, and I'm very happy for this. I try a race simulation, and also on this way I have a good feeling. The impression is really good. So I think we work very well during this day. Tomorrow we have one more day, is the last day, and I think it's very, very important for us because we want to try other things on the bike, and we hope we improve a little bit more.
Is the bike yourself, the track, or is a full package of everything to be on the top?
What?
I mean, you're on the top of the timesheet. Is because of the bike is better than ever? Is because you feel better than ever? The track you sweet, or it's a full package?
It's like yesterday. It's the packaging. Always is the packaging.
Thank you, Andrea.
Well, cheer up, Andrea. It might never happen. You're fastest at the end of day 2. The same old question comes up when it comes to Andrea Iannone in Qatar. We know he's quick, but he's got to stay upright for the race. The last 2 years, Matt, he's been competitive. There's been silverware right in front of his very eyes, and down he goes.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. Yeah, last 2 years he has chucked it away when he's been fighting for the podium. Got to say, Andrea looks a little bit more upbeat than what he did in Thailand and Malaysia. I know it's cools down quite a lot at night in Qatar, but I'm not sure he needs the woolly hat. He looks like he's about to go back to the Winter Olympics, doesn't he, in South Korea? But seemed really happy. You know, he did a race run tonight as well, and was obviously happy with his rhythm and consistency. The one thing that Andrea's been lacking in the first 2 tests is he's been really, really strong on old tyres. His issue was actually getting in a fast lap time on brand new rubber, which of course is going to be so crucial when you think about FP3, when you've got to get in that top 10 for those 2 qualifying sessions. So Andrea, it seems with that 1:54.586, when he goes into time attack mode at this test, he's a lot stronger than what he was over the last couple of races. So it just looks like the whole package is coming together for Suzuki right now.
The thing is, as well, he's got this calming influence, hasn't he? And we've always talked about Davide Brivio. He is brilliant with his team. He'll be encouraging Andrea, of course, to keep this momentum up. But at the same time, confidence is so key. And momentum is even bigger when it comes to the start of the season. Andrea has tended to, in the first 3 rounds of the season, find himself down in a gravel trap. So, I mean, that is something that he's going to want to keep that momentum. Is there a way, do you think, that they can hold him back? I know that sounds like a bit of a silly question. But
well, Davide Brivio, one of his real key strengths, Steve, throughout the years has been his man management. And I think it's fair to say Andrea Iannone can be sometimes tough to manage. But Davide Brivio, fair play, he stuck by his man. As we said, there was a lot of flack, a lot of heat coming on Andrea when he was struggling, certainly at the halfway stage of last year. But Davide Brivio stuck by his man. There was never in his mind any doubt that they were going to release Andrea Iannone halfway through a contract. You've got to say that they're reaping the rewards of that loyalty. I think it's going to be a strong year for Suzuki.
Well, if they can tame the beast, could he be a race winner? And that leads us on to our next social media question. Which riders could fight for race victories this season? Well, we could be here all night, Matt. We, of course, a couple of years ago saw that brilliant season, multiple winners. You could argue that there are probably any one of 10 riders again this year that could potentially win a race.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Steve. I think there are double figures, the number of riders that can stake a claim to win a Grand Prix this year. And you just go to look at the timesheets tonight. Iannone for sure can win. Dovizioso, Marquez, Zarco, Rins, Crutchlow, Viñales, Miller, Pedrosa. The list just goes on and on. You know, I think we could get close to that amazing year 2 years ago where we had 9 different Grand Prix winners. We've got satellite teams now coming stronger than ever. Petrucci, we know, is strong in the rain conditions. Cal Crutchlow with that closer connection to HRC this year. Will he come to the fore? This man on your screens now, Valentino Rossi. For sure, Valentino's going to be right there in terms of the championship as well. I think you're looking at probably a dozen riders that are capable of winning races this year. You can probably whittle that down in terms of genuine championship contenders. Yeah. We're hardly sticking our necks on the line here, are we, when we say, you know, Marquez, Pedrosa. I think the 3 main factory teams, Rossi, Viñales at Yamaha, Marquez, Pedrosa at HRC, and the 2 Ducatis, Andrea Dovizioso and Jorge Lorenzo, are probably going to be the main contenders. And then throw in the 2 Suzukis, Miller, Petrucci, Cal Crutchlow. It's a mouth-watering prospect. It's going to be an incredible 2018. It's going to be absolutely amazing. There are so many guys that are capable of taking that top step of the podium.
Yeah, well, we can't wait for it all to get underway in a couple of weeks' time. One of the names that Matt just mentioned there is, of course, Cal Crutchlow. He famously won his first MotoGP race, of course, a couple of seasons ago in Brno, and he's looking to climb back up onto that top step again in 2018. This is what Cal says at the end of day 2.
Cal, over half a second chipped off yesterday's time today. What were you up to?
We went through our testing program, which was today, to try and improve the front end feeling of the bike from yesterday, and try to try Michelin's hardest front tyre. Unfortunately, none of the tyres seem to be working very well for us Honda riders in the moment. One has better turning, but it's way too soft, and one seems too hard and in the middle of the corner and not turning at all. But it's not so bad in the braking zone. So we're a little bit stuck in the moment, but overall we seem fast. I feel pleased with my pace. The team have done a good job. We're just trying to also tame a little bit the power of the bike, because from corner to corner here is a lot different to the other two circuits we've ridden the new engine at, and it seems a little difficult to ride in certain places. But overall, you know, the Honda team and my LCR Honda team have done a good job over the 2 days so far. I did a 10-lap run on already used tyres that I'd used in the previous 2 runs, and I felt quite good. I felt good enough to be competitive, I think, on the race weekend if it was tomorrow. But we have another day tomorrow to work things out before the first race of the year.
Thanks a lot, Cal.
Cheers.
Cal's always so hard to read. Matt, you know him better than anyone on our team, and reading in between the lines with Cal, the fact that he's been a bit cheeky through the test. I mean, before we went live on air, he was revving up as he went past Simon Crafar as we were doing a sound check. He did the same to you, of course, in Thailand. Can that be kind of a reflection on how happy he is? Yes, there's work to do, but behind that front that he's putting on there in the interview, everything seems to be going along and ticking along very nicely.
Yeah, we know that Cal's got a fairly big mischievous streak about him, hasn't he? And that comes to the fore when he's happy and content and fast. Cal, to me, looks like he's super, super happy, more confident than I've ever seen him in MotoGP. I think that comes from being contracted direct to HRC as well. And talking about the LCR Honda team, one man who's been superb throughout winter testing has been Cal's LCR Honda teammate Taka Nakagami. A tip-off for him today, but still more impressive lap times from the Japanese rider. Here's what he had to say tonight in Qatar.
Takaki, another few tenths off your best time from yesterday today. Great stuff out there, but you had a little crash. Are you okay? And what happened?
Yeah, unfortunately I had a really small crash in the last corner. I lose in the front, but was low speed and low side, so nothing injury, and I'm okay. And the bike, so just a little bit damage on the right side, but the bike is okay, and the team really great job then repair the bike and really quick. So finally, end of the day, we improving the lap time the yesterday, and the feeling is better and better. But still, many points we have to improve for the entry and also the grip on the tire. But I think it's quite a good step, and hopefully tomorrow a little bit more, another tenths, hopefully more faster. And that's it. The team is really helps a lot, so good day.
Thanks a lot, Takaki.
Only got the ride because he's Japanese, is what a lot of people said as we went into the winter, Matt, and he is proving quite a few people wrong. I'll hold my hands up and admit myself, I thought he might struggle a little more than this, but then you heard from Cal Crutchlow in the winter, and Lucio Cecchinello joined us in the Valencia test, who told us that he looks mustard and he's going to be there. Cal consistently reminds us that it's not going to be long before he's knocking on their door as well. He's done a brilliant job so far.
Outstanding job to be top rookie. Most of the winter tests so far has been absolutely superb. So yeah, he's done a great job. I think, you know, again today, 13th within 1 second of the fast time. And Andrea Iannoni's no slouch. That was an impressive lap time from Andrea tonight, that 1:54.586. Taka's just blended really well with that motorcycle. Cal's had a look at his data and said he's had a joke, hasn't he, with Marc Marquez, and they can't believe how much corner speed Taka Nakagami can carry. He's going to have to change that a little bit. The Honda's not really a corner speed motorcycle. What they say is, or his crew chief, Ramon Arin, said that he's still like Moto 2, really hammering the brakes into the corner. He's carrying lots of rhythm and pace through the corner, but he's actually getting in so hot, he's sacrificing a bit of exit performance, acceleration. So that's all things that Taka will work on, of course. He has been super, super impressive, and staking a claim to be a top rookie of the year. And we shouldn't be too surprised. I mean, this time last year, Steve, everybody was saying, oh, Johan Zarco and Jonas Folger, they'll do nothing. They're rookies. They won't be challenging for the podium. They won't be anywhere near the podium. Those guys proved everybody wrong, big style, and I can see Taka doing the same.
Yeah, it sounds that way. It's very exciting indeed. Now, one rider, unfortunately, who can't give us his thoughts on how today went is Pol Espargaro. We brought you the news yesterday that Pol was going to sit out day 2 due to the injury sustained in the lead up to the previous test. Here's his crew chief, Paul Trevathan, to give us the latest update.
Last test of the season here at Losail. Which is your plan for this test?
Yeah, I mean, we had Pol on the bike yesterday, and it was really important because we went to Thailand and we found some things that fixed our solutions, some solutions, that helped us. So we needed his confirmation. So it was really good that he could come here and ride the bike, and also his style is so different. Then it was, you need to get that information for him so he understands that the bike is going forward. We had some other new items here to test that we've checked. We got a good step of that done yesterday also with Pol, and it seemed positive, so we're really happy. And now today he takes a day off to see how everything's going, and then we will put Mika on the bike and go forward again, double check what Pol found yesterday with him, and then try to finalise a race spec, if you like.
How important is that today Pol is with you, analyzing or giving advice to Mika, giving the feedback of Mika?
Yeah, I mean, it's these two guys, to be honest, their style is quite different, but their feedback is very, very similar. So we had Mika out on the track yesterday looking at things, and he can come back, and, a rider that Pol trusts, giving him feedback was nice to watch, and I think really important, And now they're going to reverse the roles today. So Pol will go out and have a look and check what's happening with other bikes and him. And, normally as a rider you don't get so much chance to do that. So maybe it could help us, But really the feelings the two guys have is very, very similar, even though they ride really different. So they trust each other, and I think we can go forward okay with this.
With so many changes, how is the bike 15 days before the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, this is... I think we're okay, but we're still putting it together. We've got so many things, and we've lost that test with Pol, so that didn't help us. But we found a good way forward, and we've brought other updates that seem to be working. So, to be honest, the bike's still not finished. This is clear, and hopefully, if we can get Pol on it tomorrow, then we will finalise what we're going to race here.
Thank you.
Bradley Smith then finishing 16th today on day 2. Mika Kallio, his teammate, 24th that you see on the screen. It's a good job they've got Mika Kallio on their books, of course, Matt. He's been testing the bike for the last couple of years, but what a shame for Pol Espargaro, not the start to the season that he was looking for. He's going to be starting 2018 having missed out on crucial track time.
There's no real way of sugarcoating it, Steve. In KTM's situation, Pol Espargaro not being on that motorcycle for so much of winter testing, missing 2 days in Sepang, missing the whole of the Thailand test, having to sit out today, no guarantee that he'll be able to jump on that RC16 tomorrow. You can't underestimate what a massive blow that is. Without disrespecting Bradley Smith or Mika Kallio, because they are two top-level riders, Pol Espargaro is the fastest guy on a KTM, and you need your fastest guy out there putting in development miles, putting in the mileage to take that bike forward. So it's been a real massive blow for KTM. I mean, Pol came back bravely. I mean, he told us yesterday, didn't he, that the injury that he had after that massive crash, a month ago now in Malaysia, it's normally, you can't start the rehabilitation from the operation he had for 2 months. Well, he's back on a MotoGP bike that's producing about 270 horsepower, capable of doing 350 Ks in the straight within 2 weeks. So these guys have got superhuman desire and skills, but it's just too much. He could not ride at the level where he's going to be of any worth to KTM. He's not providing them with clear, concise information because his body is just not up to it. So quite wisely, he's decided to sit out today. They've got a perfect replacement, as you say, in Mika Kallio to come in and put in some mileage on that RC16. But for Pol to miss so much testing when there's so much work to do for KTM to build on what was a truly brilliant debut year, big miss.
It seems like they have new parts every time you blink over at KTM. I mean, you've spent a good couple of times with Bradley Smith. What are your thoughts on how he's feeling going into the 2018 season?
Yeah, I think Bradley's in a better place. We'll go live actually now to Qatar because I believe we've got Jorge Lorenzo, the factory Ducati rider, on standby to talk to us live.
What are your feelings?
Yeah, today we wanted to test the fairing without the winglets to see how was the feeling, and we could see that they have some big positive things and some negative things. So finally, we were quite similar on terms of speed with both fairings. So let's see what we do tomorrow. Like yesterday, we struggled more than the rest with cold conditions and with humidity. Again, we make our lap times worse when the other ones improve the lap times. Instead, when it's warm, I'm quite competitive. I'm one of the riders with best pace, but we still don't find what happened when the weather is cold.
Do you think it's good or bad or best or worst to have the decision of the fairing till the last day?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting for us to understand which fairing is better for my riding style, and we have a lot of work and investigation to do these days.
In other parts, are you satisfied with all the package?
No, not really. Not really. I didn't feel really well, but also it's true that I just used one soft tire, and also I use it when I wasn't feeling right. So for tomorrow we will have 3 or 4 soft tires to try to improve much more the lap time.
Thank you, Jorge.
Thanks to Jorge and Jorge there live from Qatar. Unbelievable. It's a very similar situation to Maverick Vinales. 1 minute they're up, next minute they're down.
Sounded pretty deflated there, didn't he, to be fair? Jorge Lorenzo, Malaysia 1 month ago now. Seems like an awful long time ago since Lorenzo was firing in that record-breaking lap. He does not seem happy at all. You talk to Andrea Dovizioso, and he is absolutely buzzing and peaking about the GP18. He clearly feels it's been a step. There's been 2 different chassis around this winter, 3 different fairings, and whatever combination Andrea Dovizioso runs, he's fast, he's confident, he's happy. This man, on the flip side of the coin, as we can see now, these are the pictures, he's gone to that fairing that, well, it hasn't got that radical aero package on it as it at all. So Lorenzo, not in a great place. You know, he's chopping and changing between different chassis, chopping and changing between different fairings. Let's not forget, in Thailand, he actually went back on a full GP17 spec. They took it out of the Pramac garage for Danilo Petrucci. So all the momentum that he gained in Malaysia has been pretty quickly sucked out the sails.
We said at the start of the show he was one of the first out today when the sun was beating down on the Losail Circuit. This is a place he goes well at. He's a demon around Qatar, so that will be on his mind as well, the fact that he's all the way down there when the conditions are cool.
Yeah, obviously at the moment, Steve, he's struggling for grip when the temperature does drop down, and that's going to be a concern for Jorge Lorenzo. These images now, you can see him chatting to his crew chief, Christian Gambarini. They've got some serious head scratching to do in that factory Ducati garage, because on one side, Andrea Dovizioso could not be happy with life, and this man, in Thailand and in Qatar so far, he's had that kind of furrowed brow, a frustrating look. So, yeah, there's clearly a bit of work to do still for Jorge Lorenzo in that Ducati garage.
Michelin looking on there as well. It really is bizarre. I mean, he won't like the fact that Andrea Dovizioso is going. I mean, in one way he will, because he knows that the package is there, as he knew all the way through 2017 with Dovizioso. But deep down, he'll be thinking, goodness me, we've got work to do here.
Well, Ducati can see from Andrea Dovizioso, Steve, straight away from the lap times and his feedback that the GP18 is a clear step forward. That's why they wanted Lorenzo on the GP17 in Thailand. He was so lost and so struggling off the pace. They were like, okay, give him that GP17, a reference bike that he knows very well, just to show him that the GP18 is actually a better motorcycle. So, yeah, I don't think Lorenzo's going to be pressing the panic button just yet, but you make a good point, Steve. We're talking about a rider that loves Qatar. Nobody has had more success on the current grid than Jorge Lorenzo, and today he finished, what, 9/10 of a second off the quickest lap time. He didn't run a soft tyre attack in that session, but got to be worried at some stage. I mean, Malaysia was fantastic, Thailand absolutely shocking, and at the moment, Qatar pretty average.
Let's not beat around the bush here. I mean, okay, free practice one is coming up in a couple of weeks' time, but these guys are technically already starting free practice one. This is the build-up now for the race.
Absolutely. I mean, they are refining and making final decisions in terms of bike specifications, but a lot of this test as well is to build up your race setting for 2 weeks' time. And if Jorge Lorenzo is still switching between chassis and switching between fairings, that is not a good place to be with the clock ticking, the countdown running down to that first Grand Prix in Qatar in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, not great times for Jorge at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, sticking with Ducati, but one of the satellite teams, the Angel Nieto team, and Alvaro Bautista finished today in 20th place, but he's been putting together quite a few runs. Let's get his thoughts now.
Explain about this second day here in Qatar. Which are your feelings?
Well, today I started a little bit more than yesterday. Yesterday I ended the day and I was quite happy because the feeling with the bike was good. Today, from the beginning, I felt less grip in general with the bike, front and rear. In fact, yesterday we can use the front and the rear medium, and today for me was quite difficult because I didn't feel good grip. So that means that our base setting is not the best, no? I mean, in some condition can work, and in other condition it's very different. So we have to find a good setup, base setup for all kind of condition, no? Anyway, we work during all the day. Yeah, we found some positive and some negative points, but at the end we have to change the base setting to try to work with the bike always with the same feeling, no, in every kind of condition, no. At the end I tried a long distance because in Buriram we cannot do it, so today I did at the end 22 laps, and the reading was not too bad, but was not the best, no. I think we can improve. If we can improve the setup of the bike, we can improve the reading, no. But anyway, we are working so hard, and I hope for tomorrow to have better feeling with the bike.
Thank you, Alvaro.
Again, in the body language there, Matt, you can see that Alvaro Bautista, all is not well. He's not quite the chirpy rider that he was at the start of 2017 after a really successful winter test.
Yeah, it's been a frustrating winter for Alvaro. You jump on that GP17, Steve, like he has done, and straight away you sort of think, well, this is the motorcycle that Andrea Dovizioso won 6 Grand Prix on last year. This is the motorcycle that he almost won the World Championship on for Ducati, and it just hasn't really clicked. As he said there, still really searching and scratching around for a base setting, which at this stage of the winter will raise a little bit of concern for Bautista's camp for sure.
Now, in terms of Ducati in general, of course, one of the men in charge of keeping things afloat and pulling quite a few strings is Gigi Dall'Igna. Let's get his thoughts now on how Ducati are getting on in general, and of course get some thoughts from him about Pecco Bagnaia as well, who will be joining the team next season.
Okay, Gigi, in which point are you about your decision of which fairing are you going to use for this season?
We are quite ready, so we have to check a little bit better today, but I think that this evening we'll be ready for the race. So it's difficult at the moment to tell you which fairing we will use, but anyway, we have a clear idea about that.
In other topics, how do you arrive for the start of the season after a great season last year with Andrea? How is the bike? How are the riders?
I'm quite happy. The feeling of our riders are quite good, above all with Dovi and Danilo Petrucci. With Jorge, the feeling at the moment is he was quite happy about the bike in Sepang, less happy in Thailand, and here, you know, I think that we will quite happy at the end of the test. So I'm quite confident.
The other factories as Yamaha and Honda already renew his riders, his top riders. What about you in this terms?
I think that now is the moment to discuss with the riders, and so after this test or the first race, we will talk with both riders.
But you already signaled that, well, Ducati, the factory, Pecco Bagnaia. Which are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, we are quite happy. You know, this is a future program for Ducati, but I think that he is one of the best riders in the Moto2 at the moment, so I'm quite happy to close the agreement with him.
Talking on the bike, did you work on the distribution of the wedge or something like that?
Yeah, you know, it's normal. We work with this in all the different track, because different track needs different weight distribution, and so in particular here, this is a track where it's quite special for the setup point of view. So starting from today, we have to check which will be the best setup for our bike and for our riders.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, Gigi.
Gigi Dall'Igna, quite a character, Matt, but what a difference he has made when you actually consider the changes that Ducati have made, the advances that they've made in championships over the last few years since his arrival.
When he arrived, Steve, Ducati were seriously in the doldrums. They're still trying to recover from that awful 2-year stint with Valentino Rossi, where Ducati got absolutely panned, didn't they? Let's not make no bones about it. Their reputation took a real battering, and he's restored that. He's restored that belief in the engineering group. He completely revamped all the working processes in Bologna. Of course, he brought vast engineering expertise with him as well, and he's been helped by having 2 good riders there as well. I mean, Andrea Dovizioso, I think now in his 6th year with Ducati. Interesting there where he said we still haven't started officially talking with Andrea Dovizioso and Jorge Lorenzo. I don't see either of them jumping ship. I don't think Ducati are going to get rid of them. I think they want a settled lineup now. But yeah, Gigi Dall'Igna has dramatically turned around Ducati's fortunes. We saw it really bear fruit last year, so close to win the World Championship, and I'm sure they're going to be one of the main protagonists again this year, no doubt about it.
Well, we're getting closer and closer to the end now, so it's time to pop back to pit lane and rejoin Simon Crafar. Simon, the noise is gone now. The test is finished on day 2. Sum up your thoughts then. There's just one more day of testing, and then we can really start business.
Yeah, it's beautiful without that noise. No more big headphones on. It's been, a really, I think, exciting day for me, because I've seen things rise to the surface that are going to be important for the race. Like I was saying, the tyres earlier on. If it was race day tomorrow, I would really, let's work down the sheet. At the top of it, you have Iannone, and there was never any doubt in my mind he's not a talent, I was speaking to Davide Brivio earlier, and he pointed out to me that this circuit, most of the braking is done in a straight line, and the problem they've had with Iannone, the problem Iannone's had is the braking turning in, trail braking into the turn. That's where he's been least comfortable, and it doesn't show up at the circuit. So, I think that's part of the reason he's been confident. Then you work down and you get to, I think, Dovizioso is really my pick, because if the race was tomorrow, because as strong as he is, as confident, consistent, and when I mentioned to the Ducati guys about the front tyre tearing problem, they went, what problem, so they don't seem to have the same hassles as the Yamaha guys. I saw Zarco coming in with the front tyre torn to bits, Valley with his tyre torn up, and then, so working further down, another guy that really surprised me was Aleix. How, it's a lot further down. He's down in 12th position, as you guys mentioned earlier, but his race run was really impressive, last year he started 17th on the grid and finished, something like 6th. And I think if the race was tomorrow, he'd be up for something like that again. But guys, it isn't tomorrow. We've got one more day, and I think it's all going to change again Actually, we've got 3 more days before the race, but we've got 1 more day of this test. Yeah, it's all going to change again. I look forward to see what happens by tomorrow this time.
Simon, Matt here. We've just seen some footage of you busy back in the paddock, talking to Alex Briggs, Valentino Rossi's mechanic, talking to Gigi Dall'Igna, getting the lowdown on Ducati, also catching up with a few old friends. We've seen some pictures of you hanging out with Sete Gibernau. How cool has it been just to be back in the paddock? It looks like a case of friends reunited for you.
Yeah, no, it really has, because a lot of the riders I obviously don't know. You know, I've had to reacquaint myself with the new guys, you know, on the block since I was here. But a lot of the team staff, yeah, they're still the same guys, you know. And the guys that I used to be young and, when I was younger, have a beer with and some giggles, they're now moved their way up the ranks as they've got like older like I. So, yeah, it's great. The team managers and more chief mechanics and stuff. It's been great. Without exaggeration, I'm super happy to be back in the paddock.
Well, Simon, thanks so much for joining us here from pit lane. I'm sure that we've got an interesting final day of testing coming up. Of course, we've got some wet weather on its way tomorrow, artificially or not. So we'll bring you, we'll be with you tomorrow, so you can bring us some news on that.
Okay, I look forward to it. Thanks, guys, and see you tomorrow.
Thanks to Simon Crafar then down in pit lane. Great to have him on from a personal point of view, Matt. Great to have Simon on board with us.
Yeah, I mean, Simon, of course, famous for that great win in the Donington Park in the British Grand Prix in 1998, and of course still very active with his race school and everything. So yeah, Simon will bring a unique perspective to fans tuning in to us all year round. He's a great addition to the team, and really looking forward and excited to working with him throughout 2018.
One more day to go then in testing. It's difficult to know what we're going to find because the first 2 days have been up and down. Maverick Viñales high as a kite 1 minute, lower than low here today. What are we expecting really to see tomorrow? Are we looking for those time attacks? Are some riders now going to start showing us some cards?
I think for sure we're going to see those time attacks. Everybody, just from a psychological, mental point of view, they love to go into the first race with the headline grabbing lap time. I think what's going to be really intriguing tomorrow, Steve, is going to be the fact that a lot of riders saying today that they will be tomorrow at some stage doing full race simulations. You only find out, don't you, who's really got the pace when the flag drops on Sunday night in Qatar. But tomorrow is almost like the dress rehearsal, so it should give us a real indication of who's hot and who's not in 2 weeks' time in Doha.
Well, Matt, I'm glad that I finally managed to make an actual entire show with you. The snow hasn't kept me away today.
And before we go, I just want to say many happy returns, Steve. It is your birthday today, and without giving your age away, for those of you at home, I just wanted to say Kevin Schwantz race numbers. That gives you a bit of a clue.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for that. Yes. Well, that's it for today's show here after the flag day 2. Be sure to join us same time tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. from Barcelona time for the final day of testing, and then we can finally start business. We are going to end tonight's show, though, with a tribute to Luigi Taveri. You may well have seen the news that the Swiss rider, 3-time world champion in the 125 class in 1962, 64 and 66, has sadly passed away at the age of 88. Our thoughts are with him and his family at this sad time.